Sorry, it's hilarious, this. Starmer there talking about the elections we must have. He's literally just cancelled 29 local elections right across the country. You couldn't make this up.
What you just watched wasn't a mistake or a throwaway line. It was a moment where the mask slipped. A leader talking about elections we must have while cancelling them across the country isn't confused, he's exposed. This wasn't about timing, money, or resources. It was about control. And once you see that contradiction laid bare, the entire justification starts to rot in real time.
Sir Keir Starmer said that he'd stop the boats. Instead, he's stopped the votes. Not content with cancelling council elections for 4 million of us, with the help of some other senior Labour figures, he's managed to block Andy Burnham from standing in the Gorton and Denton by-election. Andy Burnham had until 5 p.m. on Saturday to throw his hat into the ring. He was supported by several Labour MPs: Angela Rayner, Ed Miliband, Joe White, Carl Turner, Richard Bergen, even London Mayor Sadiq Khan. They all backed Burnham. Well, the clock was ticking. The 5 p.m. deadline approached, and then, for maximum drama, Burnham posted this bang on 5 p.m. He went for it, didn't he? Burnham actually went for it. Well, GB News has come across some leaked footage behind the scenes in Labour Party headquarters when they saw that Burnham had gone for it. Starmer couldn't let this happen. This North London Champagne socialist human rights lawyer could never let the King in the North have a run at it. So then rumours started coming out that Andy Burnham would be blocked from standing because they were going to make it an all-BAME shortlist. So only ethnic minorities could stand. Burnham would have been blocked simply for being that most despicable thing, a white man. Hilarious. But the decision came down to Labour's National Executive Committee. They choose who can and can't stand. But with Sir Keir Starmer, there's always a tweet. Keir Starmer said back in 2019, the selections of Labour candidates need to be more democratic and we should end the NEC imposition of candidates. Local party members should select their candidates. Classic, isn't it? Anyway, the NEC voted 8-1 to block Burnham. Says that the media was informed of the NEC decision to block him before he was. Quote, "It tells you everything you need to know about the way the Labour Party is being run these days. You think that over 30 years of service would count for something, but sadly not." He then replied to a journalist who said that him running as a candidate would add to the psychodrama and wouldn't do anyone any good. He said, "I'm not sure losing a by-election does us any good either." Top piped up today. Listen to this. And just remember that when politicians say, "Let me be very clear," to me, that usually means they're not telling you the truth.
I bet be very clear about that. We have really important elections already across England for local councils, very important elections in Wales for the government there, and very important elections in Scotland for the Scottish Government. That will affect millions of people, and we're out campaigning on the cost of living, and they're very important elections. We need all of our focus on those elections. Andy Burnham's doing a great job as the Mayor of Manchester, but having an election for the Mayor of Manchester when it's not necessary would divert our resources away from the elections that we must have and that we must fight and win.
This is the point where the excuses stop lining up. First, it's about focus. Then, it's about cost. Then, it's suddenly about responsibility. But confident leaders don't fear ballots. And secure leaders don't block rivals. What you're watching here isn't strategy. It's insecurity being passed off as principle, and it's exactly how trust gets burned to the ground.
Sorry, it's hilarious, this. Starmer there talking about the elections we must have. He's literally just cancelled 29 local elections right across the country. You couldn't make this up. We actually had EU elections just months before we left the EU at a cost of more than £100 million. Now, I don't remember Starmer saying there was no point in us doing that. Do you? And the breaking news tonight. Now, more than 50 Labour MPs have signed a letter to Sir Keir Starmer complaining about Andy Burnham being blocked from standing. Look, blocking local elections in some places where Labour might lose. Blocking Burnham because he might replace him as leader. It's Sir Keir Starmer's dictatorship. we're all just living. Labour psychodrama that's going on at the moment.
Look, Andy Burnham is a dud. He's Starmer 2.0. He's weak, indecisive. He's never going to be he's not a leader. He's never going to save the party or this country. But that's not the point. The point is Starmer didn't block him for any of that. He blocked him because he was terrified he was going to take his job. Now, a confident leader would have let Andy Burnham run, and maybe Burnham would have lost that seat to Reform. But now, if that happened, that's all going to be blamed on Starmer. The thing is, he's, there was somewhere today, is he turning into a dictator? No, he's not. He's a wimp. Keir Starmer is a wimp because a strong leader would have let Burnham run. And Starmer, it's pathetic. He wants to hang on to power at any cost, and he's willing to sacrifice democracy to do that. He's willing to sacrifice his principles as well, his pride, because now everybody's saying, look at what he's done just so he can hang on to the keys of Downing Street for a little bit longer. And he's also started a civil war within the party. We've seen lots of Labour MPs today. We've seen the ones that have signed this petition.
Yeah.
It's all out war now. John McDonnell is saying what he did was disgusting. Diane Abbott's on the bandwagon. They're all saying it's outrageous what he's done. So he's now started a civil war, which is likely to hasten his demise.
OK.
Well, let me be very clear. As Keir Starmer would say, look, the first thing is that I think the Labour Party would have lost that Manchester mayoral election because if you look at the polling actually came out today, it shows Reform UK by a very long way in the lead across Greater Manchester. So, I think like every election that Keir Starmer thinks he might lose, he's decided that it shouldn't go ahead. I think that is quite a big part of it. But also, look, when you've got a very weak leader, they do not want to surround themselves by good, strong politicians. When you're captain of the seat, when you're
what's best for the country.
When you're captain of the B team, you don't want the A team star player. Whatever Carol thinks about him, he's good. He's a good media performer, isn't he?
He is not.
You don't want the A team star player to come on and embarrass you. So first thing, look, it's par for the course. Cancelling election is going to lose. The fact that he won't let Andy Burnham come and shows how weak he is. I think the really interesting thing is, I actually think this could be Keir Starmer's 15th U-turn. Because once you've got 50 MPs who say, go as far as publicly saying we're signing a letter, the name's become public, it's not a big stretch to say, well, actually, we're going to go on strike. We're not going to vote with the government till we get what we want. At that point, either the government collapses, because the majority may be big, but it's not that big, or they change their mind. I think they're going to have a look at this again.
Oh, OK. Benjamin, it's that old joke, isn't it? A Blairite, a Corbynista, a progressive and a centrist walk into a bar and the barman says, hello, Mr Burnham.
Yeah.
But, this is pretty weak, isn't it, from Keir Starmer, seriously, to do this. And, it's civil war now. More than 50 Labour MPs saying that they disagree with this decision. It's wrong. He's cancelling local elections. He's stopping people standing that he doesn't like because they might be a threat to him. This is dictator-type stuff, isn't it?
No. And, look, I don't think Keir Starmer or you have ever lost sleep over what Diane Abbott thinks about the running of the country.
So not just Diane Abbott, it's 49 others.
It's novel. It's novel to see your concern. Look, I think Keir Starmer has obviously done the right thing because running a country and government shouldn't be about the egos of various politicians that have been around for a long time. It should be about actually getting the job done. Now, he was blocked by Keir Starmer. He was blocked because Labour has rules that say that if you have a big job, like Mayor of Greater Manchester, then you have to get permission to leave that. It would have cost millions of pounds between government costs to hold an election and the Labour Party's coffers in order to fund its own campaign. So that's a massive upheaval.
This government doesn't care about money. They're just splashing it around for people who have too many kids.
And also, the ego of Andy Burnham, which is hard to rival, a man that happily lauds himself as King of the North, who said over and over again, he said, I don't even know where Westminster is. And yet, as soon as there's the chance of a promotion, he can't try and get out of Manchester fast enough. The truth is that we had an election that was very predictable in its timing because it came near the end of a parliament only 18 months ago, and Andy Burnham didn't go for it. And now that he thinks he can be the Prime Minister, having failed to be Labour leader twice, he didn't even get 10% of the vote from Labour members, for goodness sake. Now he's going for it. And I'm glad that a sort of self-serving opportunist like Andy Burnham won't won't be anywhere near Parliament.
Can I just vaguely agree with him there? You know, I mean, I want to take Jake on when he said, you know, Andy Burnham's the A-team. No, he is not. This is the bloke that wants higher taxes, higher public spending. He wants to renationalise everything. He said very recently that the grooming gang, the Muslim grooming gang scandal was over. No, it's not. Nowhere near. He didn't back an inquiry for that. This man he's not even the C team. He's pathetic. Totally right there. But you said this is all about ego. Yes, it is. This is about Starmer's ego. This is about a weak leader who is terrified of losing power, and he will do anything to hang on to it, even if it means busting his own party. This Labour Party will never get into power again.
Well, it's bust anyway. It's a busted flush.
Because of Keir Starmer's ego. He is doing a job he clearly can't do, and he refuses to get out of the way and let someone
But let me pick you up on what you said. Andy Burnham is saying, well, I actually personally don't think Andy Burnham is very left-wing. I know we've got all these left-wingers.
Oh, he's so left-wing.
Well,
Where
let me
have you been?
finish.
Andy Burnham can't make his mind up.
Let me finish, Carol.
Like Starmer.
You got all these left-wingers boo-hooing because you're not allowed in. Actually, remember, Andy Burnham was the guy behind PFI when he was Health Secretary. He's just saying what he thinks appeals to the Labour membership because that's how he becomes Prime Minister. Because we don't get a vote on it, only they have a vote on it. And the point is, Carol, that actually he is unbelievably popular in Greater Manchester. All the polling shows that. And he is a good media performer. And Keir Starmer is none of that. No. And that's why he is a better player in terms of the team than Keir Starmer.
Now, because I tell you what, they're all going to hate him because he was willing to abandon them after he voted.
Needs to come in on something. And put Benjamin in the last word to this. So I think that accidentally Labour let the cat out of the bag today because yesterday, they said, didn't they, that, we can't really have Andy Burnham stepping down as Mayor of Greater Manchester because, obviously, the threat of reform there. It's the threat of reform, right? Which is exactly why they're cancelling all these other local elections, isn't it?
This wasn't just an interview. It was a moment where the system showed you exactly how it behaves under pressure. You saw the language tighten, you heard the justifications shift, and you felt the hesitation every time the conversation got too close to the truth. Nothing here was accidental. Every pause, every excuse, every contradiction told the same story. This is a pattern. When an election looks risky, it gets delayed. When a candidate looks threatening, the rules suddenly matter. When democracy becomes inconvenient, it's quietly pushed aside and replaced with managerial language about focus, resources, and responsibility. That isn't leadership, that's self-preservation, and this is why trust is gone. Not because voters are hostile or unreasonable, but because they've learned to recognize this behavior. You're told these decisions are sensible. You're told they're necessary. You're told they're for the greater good. But what you actually witnessed was fear controlled, rehearsed, and wrapped in authority. Fear of losing power. Fear of challenge. Fear of being tested. You saw it. You heard it. You felt it in the way democracy was treated like a nuisance instead of a foundation. Leaders who believe in their case don't cancel contests. Leaders who trust the public don't manage outcomes. And parties that claim moral authority don't abandon their own principles the moment those principles become dangerous. This wasn't about Andy Burnham. It wasn't about one election. It was about a political culture that would rather avoid accountability than face it. A culture where control is safer than consent and process matters more than people. That's not stability. That's stagnation. And once you accept that, everything else makes sense. The contradictions, the defensiveness, the growing distance between politicians and the public. Because when power stops listening, it starts protecting itself instead. So ask yourself this: is this incompetence or is it cowardice? And after watching all of this unfold, would you trust people like this to run the country? If this mattered to you, like the video, subscribe, turn the bell on, because this didn't end with this interview, it started here.